My name is Jennifer Franklin. I'm the program director of the Hudson Valley Writers Center, and I'm also one of the co-editors of Slapering Hall Press. As most of you know, the wonderful poet Margot Taft-Stever founded Slapering Hall Press, as well as the Hudson Valley Writers Center. We celebrate our 30th anniversary of SHP this year, and it's a really special time for us, for all of the editors and for the Slapering Hall Press Advisory Committee. We're very proud of the work that we publish each year, 2 chapbooks. One is, of course, the Conversation chapbook, which is why we're all here today, where 2 women poets write poems back and forth and then have a conversation that they record and transcribe and we print at the back of the book. And our first ever SHP Conversation chapbook was Elizabeth Alexander and Lyrae van Clief-Stefanon. And so it has come full circle because Lyrae then chose Leela. And so we celebrate that today, as well as our newest SHP Conversation chapbook, which is Toy and Dawn's. So here is the Slapering Hall Press catalog. And many of you have seen this in person before the pandemic. If you buy a chapbook today, you will receive that this catalog in the mail as well. So you can see all of our lists of past chapbooks, all available online. So I want to thank all of the sponsors of the Hudson Valley Writers Center and Slapering Hall Press. HVWC is supported in part by grants from Arts Westchester and NYSCA, as well as grants from the Bydale Foundation, the David G. Taft Foundation, the Rotary Club of the Tarrytowns, the Gannett Foundation, St. Faith's House Foundation, the Alan B. Silfka Foundation, the Fendara Foundation, Zand Charitable Trust, New York Community Trust, Rockefeller Philanthropy, and of course, the members, students, and guests. We could not do what we do without all of you who are here in the audience today. We're very grateful to all of you, and we thank you for being here. Okay, so first we're going to start with Lyrae and Leela. And I think rather than taking any time, even reading their bios, I'm going to put that in the chat for all of you. And we're just going to start out with the 2 of them reading their work from this incredible chapbook that we loved working on with them called Leading with a Naked Body. And it's Poems in Conversation and a Conversation. And we want to also shout out to Ed Rayer from Swamp Press, who is our designer for all of our chapbooks and who did a particularly gorgeous job with this one. You can maybe see that it's inset there, the photograph, the way that it's lovingly produced, and letterpress cover. So welcome, Lyrae, Leela, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Leela, I'm going to let you, because yours is the opener, so I'm going to.
Do you want to read that? Yeah, okay. We're doing that.
Yeah, we didn't make a plan. We made no plan. So
let's do that. Yeah, I'll start there. I'm just so, I feel like the past few days I've been so, I want to say hi.
Want to hear it?
No, I have to pay attention because they're almost done in there.
I just wanted to.
Please mute yourselves, everybody.
I wanted to name the joy with which we are all entering this space, like I feel like, and the joy in which I enter almost any space with Lyrae. So thank you, Jennifer and everyone, for giving me an excuse to just see her face. I feel like that was a blessing. So I guess, Ray, I'm just going to read the first poem.
okay.
The Starry Night. how little it takes to blend in, to become a cloudy night, to watch nipples turn into vague stars and toes curl into imitations of light, to become a disappointment. We so rarely wonder about the moon's neighbor. How does the moon take up everything? I turn "how are you" into a million different questions, into a conversation, into a cloudy night. What was needy became a shooting star. What was stumbling out of pain became the sunrise, became orange glimmers peeking out of something asking and waiting for the answer. Why are so many people being killed? Why am I not? What is in this countryside night that allows me to survive? I would like no permission. I would like to be given nothing. This telescope doesn't work. There's nothing in the sky tonight.
He Seems Different, 1999, from the series Soul Erased, Joyce Scott. High left corner zinnia sun, black and white above, the tilt and grin skeleton in an X-ray purple shirt dress. Baby boy stands already knee deep in the hill, both feet in the grave. A sack of bones with sweet, straight teeth, the pained grin of the mischievous child. Curious tilt, chubby cheeks and forehead shine, strange gray eyes. The child who bites in the classroom, wants love but wants to sink his no longer baby teeth into the subject. He is the subject. He seems different. Subject, verb, seeming looks like enumerated bones. In future, will he be kept in a drawer? In future, he will be stored near the clavicle over the heart. The mountain holds his feet, little feet held in granite, little pelvis, little fish. What's left over after dinner? Someone has eaten the eye. Picked clean meal of scrunch-nosed Cora smile. Discarded, not cement shoes, but still.
You robbing my children. Take a look at how this year ends. A hospital bed, a horoscope, the dignity of holding a gown across the back. What an ugly view of the future. Chipotle or Panera, whatever chain it is, the hospital window holds the same dark damnation. Water is not always a blessing. When we put our fists in the air, I get distracted. The lightness of my body next to yours, the anger of the scale. Where's the DNA in that alcohol? Seems we've been passing a lot between ourselves. No one even notices the way we die. The dog keeps on barking whenever the vacuum is turned on. You, a father to addiction, defied our skin's odds. I left, the state flooded, your medicine worked.
Guns as Angels' Wings, 1999, from the series Soul Erased, Joyce Scott. Starry night as texture, a wisp above the grave of the pink-boned dead child. Pink as implantation blood, faint, a small tan coffin, its corners like a black girl's nails 2 years back. The wisps might form themselves into an eye above his head, but don't. Lush glyph of smoke. Coffin stood up on the hill like a stolen stele. Little Rose Lee in the coffin's womb. Guns make useless wings. A shadow asleep in the hill in a contorted child's pose, made of the hill. Placental, impression, elemental, and ash. Remember, mortal, that thou art dust. Remember, you are mortal. An umbrella's point may emerge from the ground soon with erosion, or a hand mirror, some other artifact. Coffin double duties as headstone. Rose Lee, cherub, sturdy bones, stands inside as though for duel. Cowboys and emptiness. Childhood, guns with no grip. Stone, this improbable not float. So if I tell, I gape and massacre.
Wait, can we jump to the end?
Yes.
Can we go to 24 and then do the you?
Yes.
Sundays, I'm free between 9 and 9:30 p.m. If ears aren't made for exploration, then let's colonize another bed on the floor, your chest of drawers on the back of my head. You put your fingers on my throat to pretend you have a choice. But in occupation, there is only disappointment and fruitless invasions. If people grow through connection, then I think we're getting younger. Usefulness is pleasure. You want me despite the body. Craving a stomach of your own justifies loving someone who has enough to go around. Here's a list of things you cannot say to me and expect me to stay. I'm vicious and calculating, marred by polka-dotted innocence. If love is pain, then we're experts. We're masochists disguised as perverts. The sunrise stabs through the slits of your windows. I swore I would sleep tonight, but there's a constellation on your back. Committing to the attempt to know you better, I turned to a page and called this poem X-Ray. You expect me to give up emotions for a heady supply of condoms, but what's the difference between the protection of covers and the shell of a mollusk? Evolution. With appreciation, 14 years does not need to have a connotation.
Scorned, he implodes. 1999, from the series Solar Race, Joyce Scott. A jutting full of eyes, an outcrop, eye cropping, a seeing flame, a mad seeing tentacle, an unsightly excess of seeing, an assemblage of eyeballs, eye quilt, two eye masses opening out like a river's tributary. See how he has grown a shadow under their gaze over his bones. See how he has grown unwieldy, a woman's hips over a small boy. His face now a silver mask, kneecap, ankle bone, legs long bone, one gun as long as his leg. What's the thing at the gun range you discharge your gun into? Imagine it sees the big toe over the heart, label the skeleton for the museum. In the deep of the bullet receptacle, someone has placed a small black child. He leans awash in red against the hell gate that looks banally like a white farm gate. The shadow child is failed enfleshment, chalkboard black to score keep the bone. He undoes the safety and ushers the oversized gun toward the other boy's head. Another gun holstered to his hips or slung through pelvis bones. This patterned throw, a collection of dragon's eyes. All this takes place at the dragon hour. His face, a sterling sparkle, an MRI, a negative.
An attempt. Performing pleasure as one does war, I hid evidence in cotton fibers, a tossed seat cushion. Moaning so you would know what it felt like when the Mongols took over the steppes, pillaging my stomach's sweat for stature. Perhaps, if we don't find it tonight, we can leave the quest for another piece of fat. What kind of muscle wants you deeper? Some body parts should be allowed to be unattractive. Trample desire. A butt breaks up a former lover. If plans are missed calls, mess up schedules, and morning time dismissals, we make love by changing the sheets one more time. Preach to the bleach about it. Here I was, thinking I was writing a love poem.
An elegant rendition of Impossible. Is that cotton in the cornfield? It's November, after harvest, and goldenrod valleys I drove through all August, all have stiffened to late fall gray and tan, dust colors. The hills bristle, brittle in the surprise of 70 degrees, an Indian summer breeze. A hawk swoops down from blue silo ahead, and I have to stop, watch in wonder, hazards on, and I'm listening to this desperate redneck rip every black thing in him clawing raw out from his throat over the radio. His rasp, a stubbled field the crows pick through, coal blues against a shifting quiet waltz of cloud formations above the meadows. He is nowhere close enough to kiss. I want to leave an elegant rendition of Impossible. Adinata of summer cottoned to winter's approach. Here requiring as many processes to say as wind-bent whisked blades making that far hill swath of still green. And blink, behind the flashers, I hear his tongue out like something strangled. My hazards out of sync against his live recorded breath and phlegm, rhythm meant as precaution. Even in 2015, upstate, New York, I dare not leave my car to walk across a stranger's land. And that can't be cotton.
Backseat, a villanelle. There are no questions in this poem. Uncolored tears being the only acceptable part of our bodies. What skin is worthy of martyrdom? Be thankful to any distance a bullet can't hit them. I am a million mixed children on another continent, thankful and angry and reaching. But there are no questions in this poem. Pretty soon, Survival's going to seem pretty lonesome. You avoid being killed by wearing someone else's skin. What skin is worthy of martyrdom? I want a price. I want another's protection broken. Who the fuck isn't hungry for blood? There are no questions in this poem. We have no more fathers because you killed them. I breathe America in a backseat, scared of all kinds of lights. There are no questions in this poem. No kin is worthy of martyrdom. I know that that is the last poem of this chapbook, but I feel yesterday I emailed everyone and I said this should be a celebration, and so I tried to find a poem of mine that was a celebration to end on. It was really hard. I don't write about good things often, but I wanted to celebrate truly Black women and this power, and in particular, Lucille Clifton, who is, I know, Ray's guiding light and a guiding light for me too. Pit. We made of labor, we body like queen ants, we contain destinies, we expel, we made of pasta, we of starch, we of what will be fat, we of the sweat that clouds the eyes but pleases the mouth. We birth exertion like white sharks make predators. We ready to attack, we skin, we white teeth the world into our bodies. We bloom carbs, we made of an X-ray. We diagnosis, we decide to create and then to explode and create again and again. We purpose our stomachs. We become a fighting dog. We rabid in our own bodies. We eat unborn generations. We contain whales singing assist into reality. We bring life where there is usually future. We cave our bodies from inside. We evaporate while we scratching. We crawl existence. We reel genetics. We sad from within. We made of women screaming nipples into reality. We screaming curves alive. We glow uterus. We sway scales. We tip balances. We dare a chair to break. We break. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm so honored to be reading with Toy and Dawn, who have been my loves and guides for years, and with Leela, who I could not be more proud of when Slapering Hole asked me to do this the same way that Elizabeth, I was so shocked when Elizabeth contacted me and said that I was her choice. Leela was my only choice. I think she's an amazingly brilliant poet, and I am so happy to be doing this even in the great delay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for that picture of Miss Clifton. Toy, I loved it.
Thank you so much, Lyrae and Leela. That was amazing. What a great reading. Thank you for ending with that poem for Lucille. I was thinking about her a lot yesterday. She was my teacher for one semester at Columbia in the MFA program when she was going through her cancer treatment. And you never would have known if she hadn't told us. She was so strong through the whole thing. So thank you both, and don't forget, if you don't have this incredible collection, you can order it for all of you. Right now there's a sale and it's free shipping. So go to our website, the info is in the chat. And Toy and Dawn, Toy, we're so lucky. It's an embarrassment of riches. We had you already last week at the gala. So we're so happy to have you back so you can read more extensively here today. And Dawn, welcome. This is your first reading at the Hudson Valley Writers Center. And we're sorry it's on Zoom, but we're really glad that a lot of people from far away could be here to hear you both today. Yep. Oh, there you go. And now let me ask Dawn to unmute. Perfect. Welcome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to finally be able to do this. I'm always excited to read with Toy. It's always a pleasure. And reading with Lyrae, a rare and lovely treat, and Leela, that was such a beautiful reading. I'm just honored to be sharing this space with all of you. I think Toy and I decided to read from the book in the order in which the poems appear, right, Toy?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll start out. Just underline what Dawn said. It's just been beautiful so far, and I'm just so happy to be here and celebrate today. I'll start on I'm the first poet in this book, this gorgeous book. And the title is from a line that Dawn wrote. I just think it's such a beautiful title. A bruise is a figure of remembrance. Questions about my birth certificate. And just by the way, it was just so wonderful to work with Dawn. I mean, it was just amazing to, see what a collaboration felt like. This is the first one I've ever done. Questions about my birth certificate. Name, Twinette Marie Webster. Sex, FE. Number of months of pregnancy, 9. Is mother married? Yes. DOB 41241. County Wayne, State Michigan. Village or city, Hamtramck. Name of hospital, St. Francis. Father, Benjamin Webster. Color, B1. Age at time of this birth, 29. Birthplace, Franklin, Kentucky. Occupation, mortician. Mother, full maiden name, Antonia Baquet. Color, B1. Age at time of this birth, 24. Birthplace, Beaumont, Texas. Occupation, housewife. Does B1 mean black one? Did someone type B10 for the color of some other parents? What's the difference? Who decided my parents' color? The black doctor who delivered me or the white nurse who typed the form? I was the first black baby born in an all-white Catholic hospital in Hamtramck, Michigan, a Polish village in the middle of Detroit. What was my mother's labor like? How did the white nurses respond to the cries of the first black woman in the maternity ward? Did they come in and say the usual kind words, but with a little crimp in the throat? All my mother remembered was the pain. Things got blurry during the middle passage. So much before and after was lost. There was so much to forget. After my husband's birth, my mother-in-law's doctor explained that he didn't give her drugs because black women were like horses. They didn't feel pain. Maybe she was a B2. My mother was a B1. She got so many drugs that she sat up on the table laughing hysterically. She had to be calmed down like a horse. She had to be put in a dark room with a heavy blanket over her. At birth, the skin and eyes are lighter. You'd need a chart on the wall to measure gradations, to hold the skin up to. Perhaps B1 indicates straight hair, light hair, ghost white skin, and blue eyes. Perhaps B2 indicates straight hair, cream skin, and blue eyes. Perhaps B3 indicates soft curls, antique white skin, and light brown or smoky irises. Perhaps B4 indicates wavy hair, seashell skin, brown or dark blue-black irises. Perhaps B5, wavier hair, touch of the tar brush nose, brown or blue-black irises, all the way down to B10, tight as a corkscrew curls, a no doubt about it, sir, wide nose, and skin as black as outer space. A nurse from South Carolina told me there was a chart that said, if in doubt, check the size of the baby's genitals. Dear person of authority, please indicate on this line this baby's degree of worthiness to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Dear God, dear parents, dear anybody. Heard on the auction block. 1, if I'm going to be sold, I'd rather be a B1. 2, I was disappointed that I didn't bring a higher price. Who assigns you value? Who whispers in your ear? My mother said when they handed me to her, she whispered, I will never be alone again. She needed someone to accompany her through the conflagration. She had been 18, alone, a B1 in 1933 in Louisiana when her mother died. She needed an angel, a powerful one, Mary or God, to be with her when it happened. 1, when she found her mother dead at 43, scrubbing a white woman's floor. 2, when she was raped as a child, which she would never open her mouth about, but I believe happened because of the way she treated our bodies like raging secrets. 3, on her way to school when she was beaten up on the white side of town for being a little stuck-up yellow nigger, and then beaten up when she crossed over the line to the black part for the same thing. 4, on the train, would she sit in the white or black section? 5, did the white real estate dealer think of her as a B1? What if B1s and B10s are the same to a real estate dealer? She was so afraid that the possibilities would be taken away, possibilities that had been given back reluctantly, like owning your own body or a nice house. It made her skittery. My mother must have been thinking of her body every week when she scrubbed on her hands and knees inside the corners of the bathroom and under the toilet. Pee stains are a telltale sign, with that little angel over her head circling like a fruit fly. I don't want to die with my bed unmade. I don't want the white people in my building to find me dead and whisper among themselves that all along I was the B10 they suspected. Does being a B1 make you paranoid? If some babies have a birth certificate with just a letter and no number, if after color it just says W, how does that little difference change the self that emerges from the cocoon like a butterfly? I am a poet. I am the co-founder of a successful organization. I'm an old woman getting ready to die. I'm in good shape for my age. I've worked hard all my life, like my mother did, like my grandmother. I've accomplished something. You can see what I've done. My mother used to stand at the door after the floor was polished. She'd look at the placement of the chairs, tables, at the cut glass ashtrays, at the bisque figurines, and if necessary, go back and adjust them slightly. Dear God, I try to believe in you. Every morning I surrender to something bigger than myself. But every time I feel it happen, every time I wonder if you know what the fuck you're doing.
Okay. You know, I think that silence is so appropriate after that poem. I was muted, but it was necessary. So powerful, which led me to write this. From which the thing is made. In the end, I suppose defeat is inevitable. The closing of something once delicately propped open, a silk curtain floated back to its nature or a mother, which is what this is really about. Fetish of the mother, the fetish of her under my tongue, bleating about. Even I can't let go, can't sift her being. That's that part of her that's her from my hands. What's wanted is not to be gotten. No frolic and dancing fields, no cupping of the invisible cup, gentle water, soft hands, sweet ache of breath into mine. Mine slats between, what was it? What is it now? When your voice comes through my ear, technological and distant, the crack of it, as much a weapon as a frozen foot, as much the desert's reflective water well as any. You see that? My hands arching around what would be absence if absence were wrought inside the body. We both hold it. A forever flat road, nothing on either side, just air and land and fragrance like sun or metal, the eyes sublime coma, a road inside the throat to soothe the mother. When I say absence, I say dirt under the grandma's fingernails, a break in speech like the drunken cavern I enter each night to get outside of feeling. Her name, my name, her back, a nude trunk, rigid in the face of. Her God, a real God. In order to say, existence is not here under the sable palm. Whatever dinosaur lingers in the unknown body of from nowhere. Records desist, action truncation. I or anyone can be the witness, come sad trinket of no remaining objects when a person was, when a circumference was as narrow as a fly, what replaces them? Speaking of replacements, of the way seeking never turns out quite right, and the animal in you grows a ratty teeth, substance akin to a quilt, really, your bare, raw beat, a racket, also what holds you, what rips is also your own arms wrapped around you, steady like blood, or the rivers that once were, or flowers blooming after bombs in the junkyard of the mind. It's almost as if there's nothing outside of the experience of the body. The repetition of the anapest seems necessary here of the clunk, mind, body, experience, this gap between all ineffables and anything that I might say.
Yeah. For the missing mothers. In heaven, I will know the souls of the missing mothers, the suffering when their eyes turned away, when they were somewhere else, citizens of unreachable kingdoms. I will know why they left, not as stories, but as heart in my heart. It is I who must mother them, for the switches endured, drunk molestations, soul murders practiced. I too was lifted. I too was carried away. We will be returned each to the other. Flowers will be our ship, our water. Flowers will carry us.
Then death came like a hammer, not a metaphor. As if to speak the body is to stroke the sack of it. As if what remains will be comprehensible. We name it over and over, call it into what would be being if being were simply insistence. I want to believe in something. I want to believe that effort is effect. Meanwhile, a girl's head is crammed between her mother's knees, the smell of her, the grease in her palms, the pull of the girl's hair, tight tug into neat cornrows. How many people does it take to make a person? I have had so many lovers, I forgot the one rate. Me, a punishment fusion, float off down any stream, aimless driftwood, the hollow of. The eye feels nothing about it now is gibberish to say to healing. We could say instead, we sand the hardened, like rip, like why even bother with refusal?
Entering the universe. The universe is deep. Sometimes you can feel yourself entering. Sometimes you are almost there. You are real, and it is real like living mirrors. You feel it deepen, the way when you were a child, you went behind the mirror expecting to see another person. You go from surface to first surface, layer after layer, like paintings on top of other paintings. But sometimes, for example, tonight at twilight, when the car lights come on, each and each, the soft silver brightness, as if they are separate souls, reminds you of lights you cannot see, something in and under the air, like a greater soul that makes each thing depthless, priceless, everything going on forever, and you are almost entering. When you were a child, you shut your heart like a tomb. A coldness gathered between your soul ribs. Your soul struggled behind it, muffled, then silent. So you were born into a motherless world, a world without touch. Your soul shriveled as your body ate. Yet here you stand today, a visitor at the entrance of its own being, hoping but not certain, grasping everything as wonder. You feel the silence between the beats of your heart, and you hold yourself to it, like some great dancer walking up a wall.
Perspective is supposed to yield clarity. So I'm going to take Leela's lead here, and I'm going to read slightly beyond the book because I kept writing these poems in the pandemic world, and I too want to end in a place of more hopefulness. So I'll read a little bit after this poem. Perspective is supposed to yield clarity. To waste years half alive, gumbled up in one's own lazy wallowing is how the tonic lay across me like a monster blanket. I watched a lot of porn. I drank a lot of whiskey. I let my body just wander around as if it had no mind, just body and buzzing, the way vibration can make you hover above yourself and the feeling is exalted and you don't ask any questions at all about what life means. A bit of animal is the secret to the unasked question. An openness to squander what will cease to exist anyway. And yet, what quarantines do not produce a desert of wifely longing? What kind of currents, what kind of system, what kind of wealth, what kind of birthright or digging or commonwealth insistent on its own bright realm, territories of defeat? And yet, the garden, swathed in bronze sunlight, a bruise is a figure of remembrance. Its blue arrows hums. She said, I wish I prayed I would pray for you when we all wanted a shape of prayer in our brains taking over instead of chomping on itself. Stupid little elf. God has never come to me. We surrender in the teeming utterance of materials soaked with sentences already made in air and by machines. The country says freedom, crushed under its own dream weight. I did not make up this song. Design within reach is having a work from home sale. The coming apart, the giant laceration across the sky, we all feel it. Look at the fire. Look at it, like all the rage of all the smallest beings. Okay, I wanted to end on rage, not hope. Sorry.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This was such a pleasure to work on this with you. And thank you to the press for inviting Toy, and thank you to Toy for inviting me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And to hear Leela and Lyrae, oh, what a beautiful collaboration. Amazing, stupendous.
Mhm.
It's amazing what comes out, you know, when two people are working together.
Mhm.
Really amazing reading from the four of you. This is why we wanted to put both books together, because we knew how great all of these voices would be together. And when Leela and Lyrae came to AWP to do the panel on Slapering Hall Press, they talked a lot about Toy, and it cannot be said enough times what Toy did by with Cornelius Eady by founding Cave Canem. And so many poets we've been able to appreciate so many poets because of their work and what they've done. So many of them are here today in the audience, and we're really happy to have them. We're really happy to have had so many readings of Cave Canem poets at Slapering Hall Press and Hudson Valley Writers Center. And Toy, you're so humble and modest about all the work that you've done, but everyone appreciates it, and it does not go unnoticed, everything you've done. So please welcome all of you. Let me ask Lyrae and Leela to unmute themselves, and we're going to have questions for the four of you. Thank you for that great reading. Okay, let's see. We have a lot of questions coming in, and also a lot of thank yous from the audience. So before you go today, read the chat to see what everyone is saying to all of you. We have a question. Could any or all of you talk about how you balance generating new work with revising already written work? How do you schedule your workflow? What is your process? From Robin.
Well, I'll start. I don't know if anybody has the book, but I was reading revised poems because these poems were fresh when they went into the book. And so I was revising this morning. I've gone back to them several times and done a little revision. And this morning I did a little bit more. I broke a poem that was one stanza into 3 stanzas. And that's the one for the missing mothers. So I just let the revisions come until they stop coming.
I think that for me, I'm an incremental writer, so I revise as I write. I very rarely go back. I might go back to a poem once I think it's quote unquote done, and make small tweaks. But really, I go back and forth within the phrase or the line, and like just back and forth throughout the poem. And then I might go back up to the stanza if it's a stanzaic poem or whatever. So I'm like just constantly, it takes a long time, I think, for me generally to write a poem or what I think might be approaching a poem, because I'm constantly doing that back and forth. The challenge that I'm having right now is how to balance writing and doing social justice work, actually, because I feel like, in some ways when I'm not writing, I feel spiritually bereft in some way. But at the same time, I feel just compelled to do this other kind of work in this particular moment, because I can sustain, I think, some kind of feeling of spiritual bereftment or whatever, for a few months or a year, while I try to put my energies into places that seem abject more than bereft, right? Like working with groups of folks who are just so committed to social justice, especially when it comes to women and trans folks and gender nonconforming people. And I find that when I'm doing that work, it's so all consuming that it's really difficult to write at all. So you didn't ask that question, but if I'm thinking about like what I'm balancing right now, that's what I'm trying to work out in some ways. Like, when do I come back to the writing? When do I, what's necessary right now for the world, what's necessary for me, and how to balance those two things.
I feel very similarly, Dawn, except for the same thing in terms of trying to balance time to write and space to write. Because I'm somebody who will write a draft and then stick it in a drawer or just leave it on the computer for a long time. And for a long time, I mean years, because my work comes out so slowly. But then also it's trying to find that balance between writing and, for me, it's mentoring and trying to be the person who is shoving voices forward in the world, and which I think is really, really of utmost importance. But making the space to make my own work in that work is also a balance that I don't think that I've necessarily struck in my writing.
I feel really similarly to Ray and Dawn in that definitely yes, those drafts can be years in the making before I feel ready to have it leave me. But once it leaves me, I have a hard time looking back at it. Although I will say, somewhat similar to Toy, and like thinking about today, it was hard to not edit the pieces like minutes before reading them. I will definitely admit to that. But if I don't look at them, I don't care. Like, I think I need to get that out in a way. But I definitely identify with the difficulty in balancing. I don't know if I would, well, maybe I don't know why I'm hesitating to use the term activism, but I think I'm more thinking about balancing humanity and my own like Blackness and what it might be asking or requiring of me in workspaces. Like, I think I have a hard time being in survival mode in predominantly white spaces and creating art at the same time. And so I always have to try and figure out that line between like, how hard am I going to fight against my colleagues or fight for my students, and what will that cost in terms of like my ability to create.
I've been around for a long time, and you guys are a bit back down the road from me. And I just want to assure you that the poems I'm writing now, I couldn't write without the work I did. You're putting in the work you need to put in to write the poems you're going to write. You will write poems that come out of everything you do. And so don't be afraid, to give your heart to that work. And it'll be there for you. And you will be able to write the great poems from that you couldn't write unless you did the work. So just have faith, keep the faith. It's all working together.
I feel you actually, Toya, because also I think that the work, what I'm calling social justice work, like that work also, it changes you, right? So
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
yeah. So whatever those poems look like, in a few months or whatever, I have no idea, but I know that
Right.
I will be changed by this work that I'm doing now. Yeah.
That's absolutely right. That's it. That's it.
Thank you for that answer. That was great. We have a question from Juby Headley for everyone and for all of you. It's about collaboration, and I want to take a moment again to thank Margot Taft-Stever for envisioning this conversation chapbook idea, because it really is it is a fascinating collaboration between two women poets, and I don't know of anything else that's like this, where one woman is chosen by the press, and then she has the freedom to choose anyone she wants to collaborate with, and it has really created 6 incredible conversation chapbook series. We really have the most fun working with all of you on it, and it just creates so many unexpected possibilities. So thank you, Margot, for coming up with this idea and for choosing Elizabeth Alexander for the first one. It started all of this. This question is, how does collaboration transform your creative practice? Does this, I presume, intimate engagement with another poet activate a different part of your brain or encourage you to try new things that you don't normally do?
It's like one of us needs to be called on.
Well, why don't we start with you, Dawn?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the nature of collaboration for me, is that it gets you outside of your normative way of thinking about what it is that you do as a creative artist. So, you know, working with, I've done other kinds of collaborations, but working with Toy was really, it also changed the kinds of poems that I was writing in that moment, and henceforth, right? So I continued to write some poems from that last poem perspective as supposed to yield clarity. It looked very different than anything I've ever written before, I think. So I think of collaboration as like, it's like reading. Like reading is also collaboration, right? Like it's entering the mind of another. In some ways, but this, because it's so intimate that we're writing in response, like directly, not directly, but, you know, we have this kind of background of writing something that maybe doesn't like directly respond, but responds, but perhaps obliquely responds, picks up something that happens in the imagination when reading your partner's poem. It really led me in a direction that I had no idea I was going to go in. I think it made me more. Toy's poem felt so. That opening poem felt so vulnerable, and also, but Toy's poems are often vulnerable. But this one felt vulnerable in a different way. But it also felt like, you know, I love this experiment with the poem. You know, that it's kind of crossing these boundaries of. Prose poem, kind of has these like list poem like moments. It's like borrowed information from documents. It's like really hybrid and cool in that way. Yeah, so it led me to think really directly too about form. Her poem was, to me, feels very experimental. So me coming to this collaboration as a person who people think about as an experimental poet actually made me want to resist that notion. So I think my my poems actually became, I think, more lyrical than I thought they would. Yeah, I forgot the question, but that's what I have to say about collaboration.
The process was really interesting for me too. We told Toy this story. One of the things that it made me really look at the ways in which I made poems, but also the ways in which I thought of myself as a writer, like kind of moving through the years. I was telling Toy back at AWP the last time I saw her that, and I hope that Leela is not going to embarrass you, but like when I first met Toy and heard her read and everything, I just claimed her, you know, like both my parents are dead. And I was just like, you know, yeah, Mom, Toy, like you're it. And I started calling her mom and was just like, she's mine. That's it. And hadn't really like kind of thought through the huge thing that I was doing until it happened to me. When Leela did the same, and then to be able to see myself from that vantage point and to think about, wait, what is this thing of literary kin that we're making in these lineages, and how it is that we think about the way that works are made in terms of the human relationships in that. And that sometimes, like every so often, like kind of will get, talked about, where like one of those pictures will come out and you'll see June Jordan and Toni Morrison and like, all these women like kind of together, and or the first time at Cave Canem, people bring this reading up so much, but I will never forget that when Toy and Lucille Clifton and Sonia Sanchez read together at Cave Canem, and then watching Sonia Sanchez and Lucille Clifton talk and realizing, oh, they were girls. That's her girl. That's not just another writer and everything like that. That's her friend. That's her like family. That's somebody who she like kind of relied and depended on. And so now I've lost track of the question too, but that was like one of the things that happened for me during this whole thing, where I thought,
Collaboration.
oh wow, this making, yeah, I can't even finish that.
I feel like when I think about collaboration, or this collaboration with Ray, the most important thing I feel is it's not necessarily every part of my craft has been influenced by Ray and by the years that I spent like actively trying to soak up everything I could. But what feels more important to me in thinking about the mentorship and the relationship between us and collaboration is naming that I will exist because Ray exists, in the same way that Ray exists because Toy exists, because Elizabeth Alexander exists. And I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to name what craft I have learned, but I think what it is just an approach to reading and to writing, and this like near reverence of the ineffable that Lyrae has, and in writing with her, trying to carry that through my own work at all times. And in looking at these poems today and in reading them back and forth, I also feel very strongly that collaboration, I'm thinking, the question was also, how has it changed our work? I feel like I'm just thinking very deeply about what it is to stretch a poem, to take space in other ways on the page, which is still something that I am trying to, the verb I'm thinking about is steal from Lyrae as much as I can.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to work with Dawn is because I love her poetry so much. And in some ways, we think, I might think, others might think that we're different kinds of writers. I'm a personal writer. She might be called an experimental writer, or there are these labels. And I just feel that when you admire somebody's work, there's a kinship there. And to me, I wanted to have a chance to test that kinship, what it was made out of, and the ideas and the feeling and the language that made it real in some ways in our poetry. And it's like putting a ladder between us, or some way that we're connected. And I certainly heard it in Leela and Lyrae's work back and forth. There's a way that it seemed to open up each of you to, even within your own work, to a kind of trust, to to hearing something that was unexpected. And I could hear each of you in your work. I could hear that mirroring. And so I just think it's a wonderful way to trust yourself and the poem more, and trust, the process, because I think that's what we're all talking about, that we're all really connected, through this, through the people we love and the great poets and mothers who come before us. We're all doing the same work, and our work is all connected. And I certainly feel that myself now. The older I get, the more strongly I believe that.
Boy, I'm really glad you brought that up, that you were able to even see in Lyrae and Leela's
Yes, absolutely.
poem, the way that it maybe brought out things that they didn't know they were going to write about. And some of you here were at the great Conversation Chapbook launch at the center with Kimiko Hahn and Tamiko Bayer. And what they decided to actually do was even read for us some of the emails that they wrote to each other back and forth about the next poem they were about to write or had just written. They started from scratch and didn't go with any poems that they already had. They really built it, completely together, like some of you have done too. But they showed us the behind the scenes work of crafting it from scratch. And it was really fascinating to see how their friendship, their relationship, their collaboration really went into their work. And I think all of you who have done this process together, it's a bonding experience that even if you knew each other well beforehand, you certainly know each other better now. And we are all grateful for it. I have another question from Ellen Wright, who wants to know the idea of mentorship and community, especially for poets who live in the suburbs. How do you recommend finding other poets you can collaborate with and workshop with, other than the normal route of joining workshops or reading groups?
You have to reach out, for sure. And that's a very hard thing. A lot of poets are solitary, and they turn to poetry because they're sick of other people a lot of times, and or don't trust other people, or are frightened. Sometimes that's what leads you to poetry. So it takes great courage to make friends with people who will support you, not people who necessarily you think you should make friends with, but those people who really will support you doing something so individual as writing your own poems. And some people who are rare, and maybe they don't even have to be poets, but who can encourage you. So I think you are the one that has to find those people and reach out to them. They're not going to magically appear. And you do it a little bit at a time. You begin to see the connections, the chain. I couldn't do my work unless I had people who had told me I was okay. Because a lot of people didn't tell me that. A lot of people. But I did reach out. And I did a lot of work. They didn't magically appear. I had to put myself out there and try.
I am notorious for just saying to people whose work, and not just poets, like any kind of artist, if their work, if I like it, I'll just say, hey, you want to make something together? Usually that is the exact sentence that I'll say. You want to make something together? And then just kind of see what happens. And that is so much more rewarding work for me, and not easier, because it's not easier to make something with someone, but it's easier for me to be in the conversation with a person who's like right there than in the conversation with the people who I know are out there, but maybe I'm not having more of a direct exchange with. So much of my work in recent years is just that, hey, you want to make something together, both in the writing and in the theater, film, teaching. I think my co-teacher is here, you know, all of it right now is just coming out of that kind of impulse.
Thank you for that answer. We have another question from Jari. In relation to craft collaboration and legacy, in lieu of the physical accompaniment of mentorship, why is it so hard to find craft books written by Black women, queer writers who have influenced the field? How are we to carry the torch outside of our personal connections in the midst of a lack of these kinds of craft books?
That Jari, first of all, what's up, Jari? Hi, Jari. I can't see you, but I'm glad you came. It's a great question. Have any of us been asked to write a craft book on this panel? I've not been asked to write a craft book. I would write a fantastic craft book.
Hey, Don, want to make that together?
You know, I don't.
I want you guys. I'm happy to talk to you about it, actually. No, we need it. We need it, guys. We need it.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's a question for somebody, you know, the people in publishing. Like, why isn't that happening? You know, they've been called out on so many things over this last year when it comes to their racism and their sexism. But I think that also needs to go under interrogation, really, you know, because it's very true, Jari, that they're just a handful of craft books by Black women, queer folks, et cetera, you know, like, it needs to happen.
Well, we have Alice Quinn coming in a couple of weeks to do her pandemic anthology with us. So I think we should ask her to talk to you guys about publishing that.
That would be, yeah, you should totally put Alice on the spot.
Yeah.
Alice, why are there no craft books?
Maybe in an email before the reading.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We have some other questions coming in if you have a little bit more time for us. Everyone is endorsing the idea of you doing a collaborative craft book. I wish we could publish it at SHP, but we are very, very tiny. We only do 2 books a year. Let's see.
Lyrae and I are going to need at least 100,000 for that, like, each. Am I right, Lyrae?
Yes. And time off.
And time off, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. At what point do you share new poems with other people for feedback? Does this change your piece? Basically, your process in terms of writing, editing, people you share work with. Lyrae, you want to start this one?
I am a weird one about that because because it takes me so long to, like I said, to write anything. I'll write a draft and then stick it in a drawer, and like it'll be a decade between books. And I'm saying that with a little laugh, but that's like the truth. And so I don't as much, I don't as much share new work until it's something like this that's happening, you know? I just I just read a brand new piece for a program that Dawn put together last month, that I had been working on for months and months and months. But yeah, so maybe, I don't know, somebody else on that question. It's a weird one for me because I'm just kind of making things and then they just kind of sit until I pull them out and look at them, and 5 years have passed.
I mean, that poem that you shared at the Cat Black Study Intensive was, I mean, just amazing. The chat was floored, and people were coming up to me after and talking about, like, people at Pitt, you know, come up to me, or not really come up to me, but I guess come up to me through text and like social media, and just telling me just how amazing and astonished they were by it. And they can't wait to see, they're like, can I see it? I need to see that poem. I need to see it. I think what I'll just say briefly, what I do is I'm not really interested in, honestly, other people telling me in mid-process, like in a critiquey kind of way, what they think about the work. But what I am interested in is, especially when it comes to prose, maybe not so much poetry, but when it comes to prose, I have a small writing group, and we get together when we can, when we can, and we just write together, just sit for hours and write together and share food and take breaks. And then we'll just share what we wrote. And when we just say what we heard, right? You know, and when you're doing this with, you know, people who you trust and people whose writing you admire, it's incredibly powerful to hear that really, you know, basic but generous notion of say back from those people around you. And I learn something every single time I do that with this group of women when it comes to them, the prose that I'm working on right now. So I highly recommend that.
I think that's a great idea, Dawn. I'm glad you brought that up. And we have something like that at the Hudson Valley Writers Center, open right once a month. We also have M.A. Scott, who's one of our wonderful students at the center. She volunteers her time to do something called Submission Sundays. And people just take that time to submit work and, you know, share with each other. It's really invaluable, that sense of community, especially now when we are even more isolated because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So we can't underestimate the power of things like this. Hearing all of you today, it's such a balm for the spirit. We have a lot of people thanking all of you for your work, for this Q&A. Everybody's saying that it was really inspiring. And I guess just my last question for you guys is there anything else you want to share with us, to say to each other, to your listeners today? Just, I want to open the floor to all of you to share whatever you'd like.
I'd say thank you. Oh.
Sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Oh no, I was just going to say thank you to you again for doing this this book with me. I feel so proud of this book and the conversation that those poems make, and to be associated with your work. I think that you're absolutely brilliant. I also wanted to say thank you to the press and to Jennifer and to Margot and to Dawn and Toy. Dawn, who I feel like I've known since the dawn of time, and Toy, who is a miracle. I just say it again and again. Like, I think that you are. I'm not gonna cry. I, what you've done is okay. Maybe I am gonna cry. I think that you're amazing. I appreciate you so much. You changed so much. And so, thank you.
Thank you all. We have Jari again saying thank you all for showing us what connection means to our work and how important we are to each other. This is very necessary for us to see. And I just want to remind you that you know, if you love this Q&A, you can see it again because we've taped it. And as wonderful as the poems in these collections are, the conversations are also so great. And so, you know, please get the books. They're on sale for all of you right now for the next few days. And we have a special reading on Wednesday that I would love to tell you all about. It's our annual Slapering Hall Press War and Peace series. And it will be a wonderful companion to this reading for all of you who are here today. Alpha Michael Weaver is our keynote reader. And Fred Marchant, who was here in the audience today, but just had to leave, will be introducing AFA. And then community writers from the area will also be reading after AFA. So we really hope that you can come to that one. It's Wednesday, November 11th. It's at 7 p.m. It's free, and you just have to sign up to get the Zoom link. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your amazing work. We are honored to have these books in our collection, and Margot's working very hard to try to get them in university libraries as a box set so that students will be able to read these works for free, and that they'll be preserved properly in library systems, because they are really important to American poetry. And again, Toy, what you've done for American poetry with founding Cave Canem with Cornelius Eady, it cannot be underestimated. Thank you all for coming today. It was really great to see so many people here, especially with the beautiful weather that we had. In New York City, it was about 75 degrees. My dog did not understand what was going on. She was so happy. So thank you all for being here. Don't forget to rewatch the reading and the Q&A when it's put on our YouTube channel. And thank you all for everything.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.